Hello, Tony.
Tony, how you
Oh,
doing?
good. Episode
Excellent.
number 17.
I'm glad you're keeping count.
Yeah. So
Yep,
last
good
time
man.
you came up with the 16 number, so I remembered.
You
I
remembered.
remembered.
There you
Yeah.
go.
And what I also remembered, if we go to the product learning page, because that's what this show is all about.
It is
What new
technical
content
content on
on?
product learning
Last time we had a discussion about this dynamic alerting thing with machine learning and
in
altering
Redgate
stuff.
Monitor. Yeah, yeah.
And then I really put you on the spot.
You
And
did.
yeah,
So yes, that you asked me a question about. So it dynamically adjusts the thresholds based on historical data, like baselines, and it uses a machine learning algorithm to do that.
yeah,
And you asked the question, well, do you get a notification when it adjusts the threshold setting? And it stumped me for some strange reason. But of course, as soon as we got off the chat, I was like, Tony, you're an idiot. No, you don't get a
yeah.
note.
Well, that Tony, not this, no,
this
that,
Tony, this Tony, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
just yeah.
Because basically it looks at historical data. So there's the threshold is set, say, at 75% for CPU. But it looks at the historical data and goes, I know that's going to go above that between 2 and 3 p.m. because it always does. So it just dynamically adjusts it from between 2 and 3 p.m. If
Ah,
actually it goes to 90% between 2 and 4 p.m., which is highly unusual, you will still get the alert because it'll have adjusted the threshold back down, and it shouldn't be at 90 still. That's how it works. So yeah, it's a dynamic process. It's not a permanent adjustment or anything.
ah. Well, then we know that. Then we get
Yes,
that straight.
yes.
Um,
Apologies to
but
my audience.
yeah. Well, I think the apologies are accepted, and then the people know that this is just a live show. Well,
It
it's
is.
recorded, but it is live recorded. It's
Yes,
yeah. So we're now
and you
live at your recording.
exactly, and you're prepared to ask difficult questions, which I appreciate.
Yeah. Talking about difficult questions,
Yes,
difficult articles. He's back. It
he's
is
back. Philly's
Phil
back in town
Phil Factor back in town.
after a brief hiatus.
Yeah. Here he is. You know him, Phil Factor. And are
Yes.
you interested in joining Redgate London Summit? Yeah, I am, but still didn't get any invitation or personal jet. So no, not for me right now. So people, reach out to me. I can
Reach
come
out to
to.
me. We can
Yeah,
talk about the jet. It's
yeah,
it's
yeah.
negotiable.
But Phil is going CLI style with different things to check out what's happening in the new keywords within Flyway, right?
So this, yes. So basically, um, some new commands have been added to the Flyway CLI that are basically based around the new like the schema comparison capabilities that are built into the engine now.
Yeah, and
So
those
if
commands.
any user of SQL Compare will be familiar with it, you compare a source database to a target database, you get the differences, you generate a script that captures the differences,
Yeah,
and
but
so
that's
on.
not the only
And you can do
thing.
all sorts of other things with it as well. Yes.
Yeah, and the keywords were already there, but they were in this separated CLI, which
Cool.
now merged into one big happy Flyway CLI.
It does indeed. It does indeed. So this basically just it's Phil taking a first look really at how all this works in the Flyway CLI, going through the basics of schema comparison and what you can compare as the source and target of the comparison. You can
And there,
compare databases, be a database environment. You can compare. Um, anyways, there's a list there.
there's the
So,
diagram.
but
There's the diagram.
so it's a general introduction to it all, and then so there you go. You choose a source. It can be an environment, a schema model, a set of migrations, which Flyway materializes in the build environment, or shadow database as it's often called, an empty database, a snapshot. So you choose, you've configured the source, configure the target, and then you do a Flyway diff command, and it captures all the differences.
Yeah, between the targets and the source.
Exactly right, exactly right. And the goal really is you're trying, you synchronize, make the target look like the source. That's generally what you're trying to do. So the diff artifact will say, okay, this this object only appears in the source, so we'll have to create it in the target. This
Yeah,
object is only in the target, will have to remove it, which you have to be careful with a little bit. Or these, it's in both, but they're different, and this is how.
Yeah, so you made the comparison with SQL Compare just a few minutes back.
Yeah,
so
there's Oracle Compare as well, and
yeah, well, that's
yeah.
happening, of course, in those compare tools as well. You have your source and your target.
Yep.
Then you see the differences, which actually is a differencing artifact.
Yes.
And then you select whatever difference you want to synchronize with the target.
Yep.
And then you get your change script, right?
Exactly. That's how you do it in the GUI. It's usually this is just kind of automates it. So all those side by side differences you usually see in the GUI, they're all in that diff artifact, and then you can apply various commands to the diff artifact after that, like generate to give you a script of those differences, or model, and this is what Phil's showing, to generate the schema model. And that's essentially how he goes through and does it. So he shows you how to, because a live database is defined as an environment, which you define in the TOML configuration file. So it just goes through a few details of that there, of how you do, the connection. I'm using resolvers. He's using resolvers there to define the connection details, and then he just runs a comparison. And you have this whole section on creating and updating schema models. So it takes a diff artifact, runs diff. So he's chained those two commands. I do see that diff model. So diff diff gives you the artifact, and immediately you've chained on model. So it's going to just take the artifact and update or create the schema model.
If I look at this model, it's actually the same schema model folder as the Flyway desktop folder workflow will generate, right?
Yes. Oh, so yes, I should point out that what Phil's doing there. So this is yes, I should have said this. So his particular example here is doing it as an after migrate. So Phil likes to, in the standard model, Flyway maintains a current schema model. Phil likes to, for every version he creates, save that version schema model. So he's got a reference.
So kind of snapshot of the schema model.
Yeah, you could do it with a snapshot, and that we get back. I think he's going to get into that in another article. And in some ways, a snapshot is a more intuitive way to do it because it's immutable.
Yeah.
So it's a mutable shot of how what that version looked like, and Flyway already uses those for stuff like drift detection.
Yeah.
So
but the advantage of using a model folder with tables, topic sheet, etc. in it, you can easily just compare it to another version of your model folder. So that's of course more handy.
Yes, one of the points he makes is that once you've got it for every version, you can pretty much build any artifact you want, a script, anything, without an access to the live database. You can, in an after migrate, you could actually just generate a baseline script, and then you'll be able to create that version from scratch without having to run all the migrations. Or you can do all sorts of stuff with it. So you can also do some reporting off the schema model if you want to say, so you can kind of report off it saying what was changed in this. Anyway.
But did I just caught you saying that this is just the beginning of a series of other articles where he will just dive deep into these new keywords?
Exactly right. It's a series. So he has one on generating. So this is just about getting the schema model. That's all he demos in this article, doing the diff then model, and then his next one's going to talk about generating scripts using the generate command. He goes into snapshots in another article.
Okay.
And he has one that is just the big all singing, all dancing, end-to-end development automation with Flyway CLI.
Interesting. So that leaves me with the fine assignment to update my late 2023, I guess.
Yeah,
so see a CLI article where I explain the previous, so the beta version of all those CLI commands.
Exactly right. So ideally, Tony, so when Phil's generating scripts article is ready, your updated Flyway dev article would also be ready. So you have them both side by side. Let's see. But yes, all these commands used to be in a separate, as you said, CLI called Flyway dev. Now they're in the main CLI.
Yeah.
So we just need to update your article.
Interesting. And I recently read an article on the Redgate blog where they link back to the documentation of Flyway. And there are also some examples of an automated workflow with this CLI.
Yes.
I don't know if you've seen those, but they're also interesting. For example, generating migration files automatically in your Flyway desktop workflow.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
So they're it's interesting to look at that as well. But this article was only about the differences, and there will be more.
And the
So-
model. And like I say, get Phil's view that, you know, once Flyway has told you definitively, I'm at this new version, in his view, that's the point where it's really useful to have a set of build artifacts done. So that's kind of what he shows. That's his view, because you're not certain what's in a version until Flyway confirms that he's successfully run it, and then you capture its state. So that's Phil's take on it, and that's part of what this article is about as well.
Oh, cool. Well, I think that we should invite everyone.
Yes,
check out the article.
Yes, please do give it a read, because, like I say, it's very powerful stuff that's gone into the Flyway CLI now. So
yeah, and the people who weren't familiar with Flyway Desktop now can leverage all those new commands and leverage comparing techniques in their own workflow. So check out the article.
Yep.
And well, we just see you next week then.
We will see you next week, and we might have another one of these in this series. Let's see.
Okay, we'll see what's there. See you next week.
Cheers, Tony. Bye-bye.